Lincoln County Planning and Development Group, and also Executive Director of Lincoln County Area Transportation Study. I'm sure he will enlighten us a little further about those hats that he wears. Jerry was named by Business First in 2014 as one of the 20 people to know in government, and he has excelled in the field of planning and development since the mid-1980s. He has public sector background, of course, but also private sector experience. And in the private sector, among other things, Jerry built subdivisions, was an active real estate broker, was also very involved in with over 70 agents in the real estate business, was a general contractor, a site selector and designer, and a highly prized land use consultant in the Carolinas, where he lived prior to being here with us. Jerry does live in Newark. He attends church in Granville. He owns acreage, small farm acreage, I believe, in Granville. He's a member on the board of the Lincoln County Convention and Visitor Bureau, on the Economic Development Board, also most recently here with the Canal Market District and the local Food Enterprise Hub Advisory Council. One thing I picked out from Jerry, appreciate Jerry sharing with me his bio information. One statement stuck with me. He indicates he is well known for bringing out the best in others. And we have 80 plus of us others here in the room with us today. And again, thanks for Licking County Chamber members who have joined us for this talk today. But Jerry, we'd be delighted to know better how we can all contribute to these economic development efforts in the county and along the I-161 corridor.
I heard something real interesting this morning, which makes today a great day to have this conversation. Some of you I see are already nodding your head that you know what today is. Today is the day that they went to in Back in the Future. So, that's today. So, after this presentation, go and watch that and look at all the stuff that's happening. Isn't that cool? All right. In getting information together and putting things together, made a couple decisions. One of those decisions was the best way for me to talk about what's going on in this corridor and to somehow get that in within the time allotment. Why not have it flown? So Monday, we were in Cessna 172 and we ran up and down this corridor. So I'm going to take you on a flight journey with us through pictures and talk about things that are happening on the 161, 37, 16 corridor. One that I would prefer to have, and if our transfer of some clips would have worked a little bit better, you'd see it, it would be saying MIT Boulevard for Manufacturing, Innovation, and Technology. This corridor that we're looking at is one that this community has had in a new form for only a few years, but its potential is tremendous. So, with that said, if you haven't spotted where we are, and I recognize because I talked with a fella just before this all started, he couldn't figure out where this is. I'm going to tell you where we are, but you'll also see as we get into it, I'm giving you notice of where it's at. This is actually looking west on 161, 1637. There's Spring Hills Baptist Church, Lake Hudson, Granville. So this being Granville Chamber, there's your first picture. Our work on this area received its biggest prominence when we took a concept, and I know that we have a couple people to thank I see Dan DeLauder there. Thank you for your part in this presentation that we made, but it was on Cherry Valley in 16 and the safety issue of that. So we looked at that area, which points to, and what we did on this one, as you see that this is the traffic backup. So we worked through this area, and now we have the Cherry Valley interchange underway. But I want to take you first to some other spots around the country, and the way I'm doing it is rather simple. I grew up in this area in Pennsylvania, Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, a place that really was dying and drying up, and things have turned and changed. They did a lot of things similar in that part of Pennsylvania as what we see here, where it didn't die and change, but it's actually thriving and growing and continuing to grow. I want to show you this first one. This is an area, and at the acute angle I'm seeing this, I'm not catching it very well, but you'll get the ideas. All those big buildings, for those of you who aren't familiar looking at things, you're going to get used to it in the next half hour, okay? All those big buildings are businesses, industry. I want you to see a couple things on this. Road network has been put in. Government put some of it. The businesses put in a lot of it. In order to sustain that development, they also have a lot of housing next to that, clear to those areas. This is off an interstate. You'll see there's parallel roads. This is 512, just a few miles up that way is both an airport, but also the area that I grew up in. I want you to look here too. Look at green, open, not much has happened. Part of that is explained when you look at that line, which is a line between townships. In North Carolina, they don't have townships running like they do in Pennsylvania and Ohio. But what you'll see here, and this one, is green space in one township, development in another township. What I want you to be noticing as we're going through this are similarities, and as you're starting to think about the MIT Boulevard. After getting my master's degree, I went on and moved up and became eventually the planning director of the place where Cincinnati International Airport is. This is for those of you that are familiar with that water tower in Florence, it says Florence Y'all. This is just south of that in Kentucky. Thank you. I was hoping somebody would. So in this community, the way that it worked there in Boone County, Kentucky, their planning and development and zoning was all one. I was the planning, development, and zoning administrator for all the cities and all of the county and all the places in between. What I want you to see on this as we're running down 71 South 75 is the huge business park. It was identified, it was worked on, and just so you don't lose sight of where that is, once it clicks in, there's the mall area right there. There is large business around different jurisdictions, Florence unincorporated, and so it goes. There's another area with huge development, close to an interstate, close to a 4-lane, has limited access at spots, but it's been figured out how it all works. I was actually recruited then to a place where they have the center of NASCAR country, which is Cabarrus County, Concord, North Carolina. That road, this is 2949 in a second here. That's this road. Right next to that is the edge of Charlotte. What I wanted to show you is a park called W.T. Harris. W.T. Harris, 2949, and Business Park, industrial development, research, technology, innovation activities happening there, and a lot of other things occur on that. Again, to give you kind of a perspective, those of you who even would care about this kind of thing, oh, by the way, take a look at that. I don't know how well that's showing in front of you, but on the angle, yeah. How do you like to drive that? You can drive that from one beltway to another. at about 60 miles an hour because it is NASCAR country. I want to show you this. So there's Charlotte Motor Speedway, county line. This is getting set up for what was going to be an event coming later. You can see all the traffic, which is not the nature of this discussion, so I'm staying off of it, but I want you to see that people recognize that in the air. They know where they're at. But more importantly, and this is not a retail discussion because that's not the focus of what I see actually happening in MIT Boulevard, but I want you to look at what this place did. We have big rooftops in this area. Everybody flying over knows where they are. Concord Mills. We have plenty of billboard opportunities on flat spaces that we have here. So we are working with a consultant from the transportation standpoint. You heard that I'm executive director of LCATS. That's just a bunch of garbage until you know what it means. It means that it's the group that gets the federal funds at the state level and applies it locally for road improvements. So this year we're working with some $30+ million. It's the way that we work the Cherry Valley interchange. So from the transportation standpoint, we look at all of the county and what's going to happen around that county. 161 is just one of the areas that we're putting a lot of focus on. So we have looked at and actually gone through the first area that we discussed, and that is what you see here. All the way from the county line and then running down past Cherry Valley into the Newark area. To see that a little bit better, this is the area. And in a comparative information, remember that the military township system of this put our townships pretty much in 5x5 squares, mile squares. So each township's about 25 square miles. You run through that area. We're looking at an area that's cutting through several of those townships. If you're familiar with it, I just want you to see, again, concepts. What I'm showing you here, you can also see on our county website, lcounty.com/planning, and then go into documents and you'll find it. If not there, go into the lcats.org and you're going to see this as well as other pieces of information that talk about what could happen, not what's going to happen, because really that's going to end up being yours. This is the second section that we're looking at, taking another look at it, a little bit different. All right, ready to fly? Supposed to be to Newark. I went to the county line. I went the other way because I think this is a real sleeper, and I haven't heard anybody really talking about it much. If you don't know where that is 160, 116, and 146. Go down to Toboso, Longberger Golf Course on the other end. That area is highly scenic, highly valuable, and it could potentially hold a major development. When I talk about a major development, I think of that as actually a town. That's a spot that has things lined up that people are looking for when they're looking for big projects. It's right there. It's in our county, beautiful location. We're going to work our way across the county. And I'm also adding, this angle is getting trickier. I'll move from one side to the other. I actually may move around, but I'm using this to get me there. So I'm going to move around. You can watch that and not watch me as much, okay? That helps me. Next area, Hanover. Remember Hanover used to be over here. They moved it up here because it flooded. Hanover as an area is a small community. It makes for a good location for continued growth. We know what that is, the basket. When Dave Longberg was looking at this area, he also felt that this area was going to have a lot of development. Well, look at what happened around that basket. I understand how it has had issues, but that area that was going to develop around East Main, it has developed. I want you to recognize that's an area primed with utilities, has those utilities. I often hear people talk about that there is no way that they can handle all the different things because it's already so full. One of the things when you get up in the air is you see how much land there really is. I paused here for a minute because I want you to be looking at the spot where the next light is going to be when Cherry Valley light comes out. going to be at Dayton Road and 16. This area has manufacturing. It also has technology. There are developments up in here that some of the reporters are covering the activity that's occurring there. I'm going to keep the pace clipping up. We're going to run past the downtown, but I want you to see O'Bannon and 16. We're not going to do because it's David, you ready to do whatever you might have to do if this doesn't click in? All right, I'm on a time schedule. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep moving, and as if you can do something to get it, let me visually go through this, and then we'll catch it. O'Bannon and 16. Okay, now we're on the downtown Newark Square. You can see the activity that is being done. You can see all the activity. Mr. McLean is here. And by the way, those of you who thought you were hearing Mr. McLean, sorry, it's a different Jerry that you're hearing. 21st Street. All right, this is going to slow everything down way past where it can. All of it was triple checked before we started, and it was clicking along just fine. This is a 79 splitting down and off. I'm going to go through the way I have it, and if it doesn't, we're going to skip about every other one just to keep it moving. Those of you who haven't seen the AstroTurf, that's what this one's going to be. Too slow. All right, if you'll visualize with me, the next spot that we're looking at is 16 and Church Street. If you go to the north, we have the campus, educational campuses. We also have State Farm. When we get the light that is actually holding traffic back on 16, we have improvements already scheduled coming on the off-ramp of 16 to improve the flow of traffic here. The growth of the campuses of OSU Newark and COTC is scheduled, planned. It has a lot of implications for this part of the county. Several of you have dealt with the traffic delays by the improvements that are being made here. Sidewalks are also being planned that will connect the campus all the way into the network on Church Street. Let's see what time it goes. You've seen this if you've been on that road at all. See how quickly things are happening in the shaping of that project that was on that second introduction where I showed that we had flown the area and talked about the safety issue. But again, the issue is not one of safety on 16 at this point. It's what's going to happen in that corridor, along that corridor. There are tremendous growth opportunities, tremendous things that will change. Remember those first 3 slides I showed you from other places. They looked like this not too many years ago. You're going to get to see about every other one of these because it's taken too long for each to load. Granville itself, and because this is a chamber event, I wanted to focus a few minutes on Granville, but then we're going to continue flying west and looking at it. Granville has 2 main entries into it right now. 37. All right. Hudson Lake, Denison. Those of you who heard me speak when I first got here, remember, or if you didn't, I'm going to remind you because I think it's pretty cool. Found out my relatives were the ones 100 years before Granville was established, were the fellows who created the other Granville and Granby that came down here. So they went up from New England established that area, 100 years later, those relatives came to Granville. Pretty cool when I got to see the history of that all those years ago, more than 300 years ago. But it's not a history lesson either. So I'm going to go to this one. Have 37. 37, I want you to, in your mind, visualize where it goes down to and how that works its way all the way back down to the interstate, National Road 40. That is one busy road. If you haven't seen it, from the effects of the repaving, you see that truck traffic has increased significantly. So one of your main ports, one of your main entries into Granville is getting loaded up with truck traffic. Cherry Valley Interchange, you hear the discussion about Thornwood Drive and taking that on down to alleviate some of that truck traffic. Trucks generally stay on state routes. This is a state route. Whereas the next one, Broad Street or 16, running down into Pataskala, it goes a different direction. But the traffic as it hits in this corridor is a tremendously important one for the Granville community to be understanding, both township and village. You see that you have new developments coming into this area now. But you have to continue to protect your ways to get in and out. We will have this available online where you're going to be able to see it, and you'll be able to see the spots that I'm not showing. In some ways, this is like an old slideshow and the carousel show, isn't it? Where I'm just clicking and showing you things with new technology. The difference on that is, unless the bulb went out, you got to see it. You could move it, it would be upside down, turn around. This one, we just have to wait. In Granville, this is the park, community gardens, Granville owned, ODOT owned, and a really cool oxbow that the Granville Eagles understand and know, and the bike path. This is an area that has limitations on any development, but it really has some neat things. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of you had any idea that this curve in Raccoon called an oxbow existed? Okay, so about a fifth of you. Those are the reasons why you look at things not just on still maps done by communities, but you actually look at them a little bit different. We're going to move, let's just go to the next set. Go to the next set. I want to take you past Granville and continue to work and look west. We're just going to park here at Alexandria for a minute. Alexandria lies right here. If I would have had a couple of the other slides, you would have seen how a parallel road is established that didn't jump back on New 16, but it stayed on and continues on. Parallel roads are a really significant thing that you don't see very often, and knowing that new construction doesn't occur very often, new roads don't occur very often, it provides a lot of opportunities. Outville Road connects all the way down to Kirkersville. That's, pardon?
Lancaster also.
And to Lancaster, and on further south. That road, with a little jog, and it's just off of here, comes back over, so 39 becomes 40, and you are right here. Alec, that's a neat church right there. For those of you who know where that church, what's its name?
Church of Christ.
Church of Christ. So you have your orientation of where we are. That road is a significant road as you look at development potentials. This community sitting on a bunch of stone, but it also sitting on a huge aquifer. It has more water there, and they're buying water from other places, but it has more water there that would take care of the whole of this area. But it also has some potentials of activity, and the connection down to 40 exists there, but it's not commonly recognized. Let's see if we can get this to load. Here we go. All right, so there's the small Alexandria. properly called by those who've been there Alex, running along the interstate. What I want you to see, both frontage roads as well as environmentally sensitive spots because of the aquifers there, but also some potentials of development around it. South of 161 doesn't have those issues. The land around that is significant, has huge potentials. As we work our way across, we're now heading to 310. For those who care about this, but I can tell you the person driving doesn't, that's one township, that's one township. Those two townships each have potential of things occurring there. I want you to also see the frontage road down the south side. This is now called 162, County 162, but it's old 161 of Worthington Road. These roads, these frontage roads, are interesting and significant. You're going to hear it, you saw it. I think the point of it's already been made. If you haven't been there, you need to look. From a land use planner, guy that used to identify spots, a lot of them around the country, that is the high ground. High ground east, high ground west. That's high ground, that's prime ground. That is ground that also has the availability of utilities. So the things that prime, they get things ready, that spot is key. It's a key location. There's a lot of potential of that. And by the way, what's on the other end of 310? Down. And then after we get through that little jog leg and we continue on down, then what do we hit? Then we hit Etna. And we hit all the businesses of Etna. That corridor, except for that spot through on Broad Street 16, the jog that they have in Haskell, that connects down to mega business activity in Etna Township. This is actually, for all that we're doing, going west, we're going to go east for a minute. So I'm going to take you east. So we're actually setting on the north side of this road. We're going to talk about that area in a minute. But I want you to see old 161 and the tremendous area of developable land that could occur. Again, we recognize that it's rather empty as we drive through that. Get up in the air and you see what's really going on. All right, so there's been discussion about what's going on over at Jug Street. You're beginning to see International Beauty Park here. By the way, the presence of all these high towers, cell towers, also is an indication you're on high ground. It also means be careful when you're flying in little planes. All right, so here we are. 16, major boulevard with development potential, has a road called Mink Road. Where's Mink Road go? And the other direction? It keeps running. These roads, because of the way that everything was created, basically everything that was created back from the Revolutionary War, and they figured out they want to chop them in these 5x5 squares, their roads run that same way. So you got a quarter, you got the 640, you got the pieces of land. So we are blessed with really good road locations, not necessarily width on them. Mink Road actually has a frontage road on it, the continuation. International Beauty Park is here. The plan is to extend, whether it's up here or loops back around. I'll show you this in a minute. This project Didn't go through the traditional system of how the funding works, but it is fully funded, and you'll see the construction of this next year. This is the back way into International Beauty Park. It's the back way into all the business and industry that we see on the north side of New Albany, up north of 161, and it isn't loaded. There. Couple things for you to see, kind of quick. The concept of it is still being worked out. The concept is known. The detail is being worked out. We've been pushing for it to actually be up here as a continuation of activity rather than sweeping back down using part of the frontage road. Because of these connections and where this is heading, this is going to be heavily traveled. What we already know, there'll be lights at these locations. Easy off and easy on. It's the back way into the business park, called Innovation Way in the concept drawings. Again, excuse me for not being able to show all these. I can do very little about how quick things are clicking in. But looking at it again, there's the back of the beauty park basically coming through here. So if you have seen the past 6 years, a place where there's nothing and now there's stuff everywhere, what would you expect to be happening here? More of the same. More development is going to be happening there. That big, strong push of the activity and the businesses of New Albany are going to be extended here. It also is a spot where there's going to be a lot of truck traffic. So that the activities and the congestions and the things that are here are reasons why we want to see that up and pushed further in. Talking about different spots where a lot of things can happen, from mixed-use development to business development. New Albany has identified an area that they're also going to have more regional retail. That's what I'm getting ready to show you when it will show up. If it doesn't show up, I'm going to just tell you. Northwest quadrant beach, this area. They also are looking to where they're going to put all the people. Where are the people going to be for all of this? There are plans that they have some of that lined up. I want to show this so you don't lose perspective. By the way, when you get at this spot, you are actually you are within about a mile of entering very restricted airspace, Class C space. So we got to see some things flying close to us, and we were low. It's not showing up very well. Maybe straight on you're seeing it better. A lot of housing here serving. The issue is making sure that there are enough people and qualified people for the jobs that are being created both here as well as south. There. Again, because of the screen and the way things had to be clipped short, this is what New Albany has put together that shows the land that they have, their access points off of the road into these business and industrial parks. They've identified available space. They also show what can occur around it. All of this is laid out and planned and thought through, both with the townships around it and the private development. Absolutely nothing is going to happen without the types of businesses that you represent. These ideas don't occur in vacuums. Let's go to the third one. So, I'm just going to tell you a couple things, and I might still click on a few of them. I'm not sure that I need to, because we talked about it. What I wanted to show you is if we just went over to Worthington, you'll see Worthington is an area that New Albany is becoming very quickly. You'll see if we head south, places that have huge footprints and pretty good job numbers, but also taking big land areas. Prologis and its development is not setting direct to the access points of National Road and 40, a parallel road and an interstate. But it has become extremely successful in moving activities and businesses around at that spot. There it is. So between the interstate and National Road, and if you don't remember or haven't heard, National Road, the reason I keep calling the US 40 National Road is that road was the road that Congress figured out 200 years ago was going to be the way to settle the West. So they went and built this road, National Road. It runs right through the southern part of our county. And it is significant in terms of a lot of selling and talking about different businesses and development to recognize that something that's been around for 200 years is continuing. Go back to my very first slide. You know how close we were when I was over on 146 to Black Hand Gorge, and the first technology that was here a couple thousand years ago? Flint. And because we work other areas, including the Buckeye Lake area, I wanted to show you something that I think people kind of lose perspective of. There's the lake. There's Buckeye Lake Village. There's Hebron. There are businesses, and a lot of businesses. This I-70-79 corridor is where a lot of growth has happened for the past 40 or 50 years. The connection of that back up to what I would like to think of as the MIT Boulevard, Manufacturing, Innovation, and Technology, is there's tremendous opportunities that exist. Well, because we are really just about out of time, I was going to show you me and Todd Fortune who flew this, but you know me and I can point to Todd. He's right there waving. And I was going to show our pilot that we had flying us around, but I do want to bring you back to the ground. So just in case you've never been in a small plane, this is what happens when you have a crosswind and you're going to be landing. So thank you for letting me be able to share some thoughts of what's going to happen, what can happen, but none of it will happen by any singular activities that the government does. In fact, we can get in the way of things happening too often. We can also help and make things occur. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about the area by taking you up in the air, looking around, looking at places not just somewhere else, but that really are already in our backyard. Again, we will have this posted on our website. We'll do some other stuff later on it. There's no audio to it, so you can feel free to use it to share it. One of the things I didn't get to show you because we're having the technical, you can go on to just about any one of those maps, and you're going to be able to move it around. You can move all over the place and see things. You can zoom in and out, just like I was doing. So, David Starr, thank you for all your work putting this together, and the other folks in my office, Todd, who not only took it, but put this together from Monday afternoon until this morning, Jay Fisher, who's videoing it now, and Matt Hill, who's been also very involved in looking at the transportation impacts. One of the things that I want to leave you with is, in my final point, is we are so used to looking at singularly one item in our area. I want and I hope that this is an opportunity for you to look at a bigger picture and recognize that what's there now is going to change. There is development pressure. I didn't get to talk even the demographics of the younger people and how that corridor represents that, higher educated, higher incomes, and continuing. And it's over and over that I hear this story that I'm leaving you with. People who have left this area are coming back. The fellow who stood here in front just before shared with me his story of coming back, being raised in Johnstown and coming back to Granville. It is a great community. I have been in many states doing a lot of things, and you don't recognize, because it's where you're used to, you don't recognize what an incredible community land area that you live in. And for that, I'm thankful to be involved in seeing and helping it develop. So again, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Jerry, before you leave, how about, can you do questions, if anybody has a couple? Anybody have a question for Jerry? Yeah.
Kind of a twofold question, Jerry. You may have addressed this, and I missed it in your presentation, but zoning and infrastructure, utility infrastructure, in that boulevard, do you have maps to identify what's available now?
Yes,
zoning?
Zoning, yes. After 9/11, a lot of things changed on the availability of C infrastructure. So infrastructure, both all the pipelines that we have in this county for 100 years, we don't see them, those are not publicly viewed anymore. Water and sewer, the areas that can be serviced are identified. It's in a 208 plan, and that is, some of that is available. We can also find a way to create a link to that for you. In terms of zoning, if you go to our website, although we don't do the zoning for the counties, townships, we have taken all of their zoning maps and their zoning regulations and have them on our website, and you can click on it, link, and it will populate it. We have all that stuff available. In terms of the utilities, a little bit more on that. There was a study done looking at where water and sewer can work. There's been a lot of bickering over how utilities of water will occur. Water's not really known as the primer of what brings it. It's public sewer. So running it very quickly, east to west, until you get into the Newark area, around the basket, you're not going to see public sewer really available because of a lot of the cost. But that doesn't mean that you can't get a large development to create something, which is why I'm thinking 146 has potential there. Coming back through Newark, all taken care of. Continuing through Granville, already taken care of. So what happens then as we get to Alexandria? That area is an area that can be serviced. It still has the availability of some utilities there. 310, especially south of 310, it's within striking distance of the sewer service. It's just, I'm not quite sure why it hasn't already dropped in where somebody has already gone after that. If I'm picking one spot outside of where people have already identified, it's 310, sitting high there. Now, there's been quite a bit of deal done with Franklin County and New Albany in terms of Columbus providing the sewer service into that area. When you look at any of these maps, and if you don't have one of the county engineer's maps, I'd really encourage you to have it. I know that we tend to not use paper stuff anymore, but this map is loaded with information, including, if you're used to looking at blue line streams, you can see how the drainage basins work. So that's how the sewer priming can and will happen in time. Was that the two-part? Thank you. Yeah, Jim? Jim Bittigary.
How is township zoning affecting or hindering the prospects for development along the corridor?
I remember when I showed you Bethlehem, two townships. One said we're going to have growth. One said no, we don't want anything. We want our farm fields. If I, in fact, let's see, David, if you go to one and go to Bethlehem, I'll pull it up. How does the zoning help or hinder? If the guys of two townships aren't talking with each other, it's definitely a hindrance. When they don't have an idea of where they're going and a plan for their future, it's also a hindrance. Whether or not everybody fully agrees to it, the idea of what is going to happen, whether or not people want it to occur, your zoning has to line up with a lot of those development pressures. In this case, by the way, that says Hanover Township. It's not Hanover Township in our county. It certainly doesn't look that way. These are township lines that you're seeing here. That's probably a real good one to use right there. That's a township line between something called East Allen Township and Hanover Township. Can you tell who has utilities and who doesn't? Can you tell who put in a development that didn't figure out where the utilities were and where they were going to service? Isn't that an interesting one? So the answer to your question, there's a lot to it, but the shortest answer is your zoning has a tremendous amount to do with it. What the elected officials think, how they view activities, and how they look, not just to remember the past, but to enhance what's there, never getting rid of that, but then looking to the future and what can happen. It has to be reflected in whether it's a comprehensive plan or your zoning or your 5-year capital improvement plan of where you're going to put your money to make these improvements occur.
One more. Time for one more question. Jim, you already had it. Who else has a question? Nobody else? Jim, you get? No, here we go.
Oh, he had one too.
Oh, Jerry, just a general question. With New Albany and the industrial park and the cosmetic park and all the schools out there, doesn't that really foster Lincoln County and all in the Newark area, especially to just to push back potential growth?
The growth potential of our county, think of it in your mind, and I'm telling you, you're not thinking enough. If you've not heard the term reshoring, it's a good word to use in your vocabulary. Reshoring, bringing the businesses that had gone offshore back into the United States. That's happening in our county. They're bringing businesses where they're doing manufacturing in China and other locations, bringing it back into the United States, into Ohio, into Licking County, into New Albany. That's what International Beauty Park is. When I first came here and I was trying to figure out this area and I saw all those buildings occurring, I've been here, I'm just starting my 5th year. So that's the perspective. If we would have gone 6 years ago, you wouldn't have seen anything there. In a very short time, it's grown tremendously. They are bringing businesses back to this country. It is tremendous. And while I'm at it, let me just throw another plug for Corning, Owens Corning. They have done tremendous things for the growth of this area. Their fiberglass, all that they've done, we better not lose sight of what's there on 16 and the hundreds of jobs that they have and what they have in downtown Newark. Hundreds of jobs dealing with research. So when I was kind of trying to think of, why do we keep calling it 16 130s, 161, 37, and it's confusing. This is a boulevard that has MIT written all over it. Manufacturing, innovation, and technology. It's been here generations, if not hundreds of years. So yes, not only is it in New Albany, but it's happening right here. For those who don't know or hadn't heard that, do you know we have part of the Alaskan pipeline buried in our county? We do, because when they were trying to figure out how they were going to do that innovative work, 40-some years ago, they figured it out here in this county and put it behind their spot on 16, so it's buried over there. It's a place that our history, what we've done, we are really just continuing to jump and grow off of that. So thanks for the question. And again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me speak to you this afternoon.